What's going on, guys? Brenden Schaeffer back here with another fantasy football mock draft as we get closer and closer to the 2023 draft season, really getting into full swing. Some people out there might already be drafting for their redraft leagues, but mine tend to not draft until early September. The first week of September can kind of fill out the rest of those drafts before the NFL season gets underway. And so for me, the month of August is spent doing a lot of mock drafts, and I'm going to put a lot of those mock drafts on video on this channel and then do more fantasy content as I build this thing up through the regular season. So if you find that you enjoy this content, hit subscribe on this video on this channel, Brenden Schaeffer Fantasy Football, and we'll have a lot of fun this year. I recently did a video on a 0 RB strategy. That's the last mock draft video that I put up. I think I was drafting from the 1.5 for that video, and I got a comment that said, 0 RB, right? That's kind of played out. A lot of people know about it nowadays, and it's not as unique as it used to be. I still find that a lot of people are resistant to the idea, so I do believe that there is still value in 0 RB. However, I agreed with the commenter because he said hero RB is honestly probably the way to go this year. And I thought there might be some merit to that because I find a couple of guys that I like in the running back room in those first and second rounds. It's not a bunch of guys, but there are a few that I feel like are worth building around where you have one really strong running back and then you wait until maybe round 6 or 7 or beyond to pick up the rest of the running backs for your roster. I'm going to try to follow the script that I put out at the beginning of this video. Last time when I did 0 RB, I said I will not draft a running back until the 6th round, and I will draft at least one quarterback or tight end in those first 5 rounds to give me a positional advantage at that spot. Today, I'm going to do something similar and try and set some rules, drafting from the 1.8 for what I want to do in this 12-team PPR draft setting. I'm going to pick a running back within the first 2 rounds, and then let's say I'm not going to select another running back until at least the 7th round. And we'll see with our roster build how far we can go. I may not go too long relative to that. It may just be the 7th round where I start to jump back in on running backs. The reason for that is I'll have a bunch of wide receivers by that time, I expect. I'll have at least a quarterback or a tight end, but I may not have both. The only way I really advocate filling the full roster out by that spot in the draft is if you get one of the top 2 tight ends. I'm looking at Travis Kelce and I'm looking at Mark Andrews. If I can get one of those 2, I feel good about it. Otherwise, those mid-round tight ends from all the way from Hawkinson to maybe down to Dallas Goedert or Darren Waller if you're into him with his new team, I don't really find that the value on those guys is very appealing to me. So usually I don't draft them, but coming into this draft, we're going to see if maybe we can get a Travis Kelce or value on a Mark Andrews. And if we can't, it may still be a long wait for tight end. But otherwise, we're going hero RB. That's the plan coming into this draft, drafting from the 1.8 in a 12-team PPR. We're going to kick the thing off right here on Sleeper. I think we've got the settings that we're looking for. And we're off and running with the draft. I do think... Oh, there it is. I was just about to say, I thought I had the sound on so that we could hear the little sound effects, and I wasn't hearing them. There it was, loud and clear. Hopefully that didn't scare you. Okay, so Travis Kelce, not an option because he goes at the 4 spot, which is not surprising. We're seeing a lot more mock drafts in that way with Travis Kelce in the top 4 or 5. I will say this, though. I did a mock draft on Yahoo for the first time yesterday. I was able to get Travis Kelce at the 1.9. It's very important to remember the service that you're using, the platform that you're drafting on. It's going to differ because people, even though they shouldn't, basically rely on the system ADP that's put out there. And Yahoo does theirs weird. The X rank is the way it's organized. It's not even organized by default to ADP on Yahoo. So there are advantages to be had on Yahoo. And because this is a fantasy channel, I'm going to go through that later on in the month of August and show you like who are the targets that are worth going after on Yahoo versus Sleeper. I think that is a super valuable resource to be considering when you're drafting. You got to be specific to your platform. But for now, I've talked enough about that. We're going to look at this first round. Bijan Robinson is still on the board, and he's one of those running backs that we think is worth building around. Nick Chubb is another. I am a little bit worried that if I don't take Bijan Robinson here, Nick Chubb is not going to make it back to me at the 2.5. And in that case, I could end up with somebody like Jonathan Taylor in the 2nd round, and I don't know if I want to risk that. I like Bijan Robinson. There is plenty to like. Nick Chubb is really the running back that I want to have if I'm going hero RB. I want him in the second round. I want him early in the second, though, and choosing the 1.8 spot means at the 2.5, he might not be there anymore. Let's look at the system ADP. We're about out of time here. Nick Chubb is not projected to make it back to us. So we are going to go ahead and hit the button on Bijan Robinson. Let's see where Chubb goes, because if he's still on the board, I'm going to be kicking myself. Okay, he's not. Nick Chubb goes at the 2.2. We feel good about that. Now, comparing Bijan Robinson versus Nick Chubb, I think is also... I mean, Chubb could absolutely outscore Bijan Robinson. Did I just become a slave to ADP a little bit by going Bijan when I know I'm really into Nick Chubb? It's a fair question, but I do think Bijan, the world of him and his opportunity this year. The Atlanta Falcons are going to throw the ball 4 times per game, and Bijan Robinson's going to get the rest of those touches. He has the chance to be an absolute workhorse. I love Nick Chubb, but I'm not generally in on the Browns offense being like a top 5 or 10 offense. Deshaun Watson, yeah, he'll be fine. But I don't know if they're going to elevate to that next level. Whereas in the case of, sorry, I'm getting some notifications on the screen and I'm making sure they're not popping up on the video. They're not. We're good. In the case of Nick Chubb, though, I'm really into him and his opportunity. But I feel like it's going to be even more of a large piece of the pie for Bijan. So I'm fine with going Bijan above Chubb. I've got him ranked neck and neck in my rankings. And when it gets to a real draft, I honestly don't know which way I would go. But I have no problem going Bijan here. That said, round 2, it's a very easy choice for me at this spot of round 2. Amon-Ra St. Brown is sitting right there at the top of the ADP board, and that's who I'm taking. Jonathan Taylor could be a great value in round 2 for those still looking for a running back. It's just going to be how strong is your stomach to potentially weather the risk of his pup situation, his weirdness with the Indianapolis Colts. How strong is your stomach on that one? Mark Andrews is a very compelling selection here as well. He's even lower, by the way, on Yahoo, I've found. But I don't think I'm going to be able to get Mark Andrews coming back to me, right? He's at 25 here. I'm not going to be going till 33 or so. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, the volume that he's going to get in that wide receiver room, I feel very good about. So we don't go Mark Andrews. I think it's a little early at 2.5. But here is the range where any of these teams should snap up Andrews right now. One of these is about to do it. He's a great value in the 3rd round. And he goes 1 pick before us. No. Guys, if this was a real draft, I would have been sweating bullets that whole time as Mark Andrews' name remains on the board throughout that early 3rd. If he would have gotten to 3.7, I would have been on tilt for sure. But this is why we do this, right? This is why we mock draft, because that's going to happen in your real draft. You're not going to be able to avoid it. You're going to get sniped, and you have to be like, okay, what's my plan when that happens? And honestly, with the way I'm looking at this draft board, don't love picking from the 1.8. Not big on that, because I don't really have a wide receiver that I love in this next tier. I don't. We could look quarterback, but I think it's a little early for Lamar Jackson. It's a little bit early. I have Lamar and Justin Fields in like a very similar spot. And if I wait, I might be able to get Fields. Look, he's below the line on ADP. I might be able to get Fields in the 4th. If this weren't a situation where I had gone hero RB, I'm probably going Jahmyr Gibbs in this spot. Very high on him, although I do have Amon-Ra, and I don't want to overload on Lions. But that's really fascinating. I don't love the 1.8. That's what I'm learning about myself through this process. We're only 3 rounds into it. There's a chance that you love it if Mark Andrews gets to you, right? But if he doesn't, that's a tier break for me. So let's look wide receiver. We've got our 1 running back. We're going to play hero RB with Bijan Robinson. It's a little early for quarterback. We don't want to go tight end unless we're getting a round value. Like Kyle Pitts in the 5th, we'll look at that. But otherwise, we're going to go with some wide receivers here for a little bit. So what's our choice here? DK Metcalf, stud athlete, but he's going to compete with Tyler Lockett. He's going to compete with JSN. Deebo Samuel is a guy that I'm pretty high on. For me, this is either Samuel or Ridley. And I'm going to go Deebo because it just feels a little bit early for Calvin Ridley. I've been seeing him go in the 4th. We lose on the ADP battle, by the way, with Lamar Jackson because we felt it was a little bit early to pick him, and so we didn't do it in the last round, so we lose our chance to do so. However, we were right to wait on Calvin Ridley because now we can get him in the 4th if we want. But the decision that we'll be looking at here is, do we really stock up at wide receiver with Calvin Ridley as our wide receiver 3? Right, we're talking volume with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Volume and upside in a potentially explosive passing offense. I know what I'm saying. It's still the Lions, but I really am high on that offense this year, especially if their defense stays bad. They're going to continue to throw. Jared Goff racking up volume last year. He's just got to be able to do it on the road, but I think he's going to have enough weapons in his arsenal this year, especially after Jameson Williams comes back, to have a really fine season. And we won't be afraid to look Jared Goff's direction late if we don't go early QB. But we did say we're looking for a QB or a tight end in those first 6 rounds. And so now I think it's going to have to be a quarterback. Justin Herbert going in the mid-5th is going to burn us if we don't go quarterback here. Trevor Lawrence, like if Lawrence and Herbert are gone before that 5.8 pick, we are really kicking ourselves for not picking a quarterback here. And normally I wouldn't worry that much about it, but I'm trying to be specific in my strategy here. So I want to be robust at either quarterback or tight end when going hero RB. Otherwise, you're losing some advantage in the way you're going about that, because you'll have 2 positions in your lineup that are weak in quarterback and tight end, or maybe not weak, but are dart throws because you're picking those guys toward the end instead of in the early rounds. And you'll also admit that your RB2 isn't going to be that strong. And so the value right now of just loading up on wide receivers, I don't think is as high. I like Calvin Ridley. He's the last of a tier for me. I like DJ Moore, but I don't think at the 1.8 we're going to be able to stack DJ Moore with Justin Fields. But we're okay with that too, because we like some of these wide receivers in the later range, like Judy, Christian Watson, even down to Brandon Ayuk and Lockett. And so we don't necessarily need the stack, but we want that rushing upside. So we're going to go Justin Fields. Team 7 right behind us takes Calvin Ridley. We like their draft because we were considering Ridley there, and they had sniped us on Mark Andrews. But we're feeling good about having gone Justin Fields because, as you see, Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence go off the board. Would Lawrence have made it back to us if we had saved the quarterback spot and somebody else could have picked up Fields? Maybe Team 6 goes Fields and nobody picks Lawrence. Who knows? But we feel good about having Fields, locking in that upside on the rushing side of things. In the passing game, I think when DJ Moore, who did go 5.5, is involved, we really feel like that's a passing offense that's going to ascend. Again, I'm not saying he's going to be Jalen Hurts in Chicago, but Jalen Hurts got A.J. Brown, and immediately you stop viewing him as just a running quarterback and a guy who had just explosiveness in the passing game as well. Justin Fields could make that leap this year after adding DJ Moore. I'm very high on DJ Moore. Justin Fields is by far the best quarterback that he will have ever played with. So I think Justin Fields is a really good pick in the 4th round if you're trying to prioritize the quarterback position, which we decided we were. Okay, we're going hero RB, so what does that mean? We could check on the tight ends. We did say Kyle Pitts in the 5th would be intriguing. But because we have Bijan Robinson, we're not going to go that route. I said that I think that the pie in Atlanta is going to be largely Bijan's to eat. I believe that. I think if you don't have Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts slips to maybe the early 6th, the upside of the talent is tremendous because you're getting him on the discount of people assuming that the Atlanta offense is just going to be run-based. And it very well could. I expect it to be that way. But Kyle Pitts is a force, and if they can be successful enough to get down in the red zone, I think the touchdown regression has got to be coming for Kyle Pitts. I expect him to be really good this year, and getting a talent like that in the early 6th is just, you can't pass that up. But we're going to pass it up here in the 5th, and we're going to look wide receiver. We like Jerry Jeudy, but I'm thinking ahead. I like Cortland Sutton as well. If I can get him in the 9th or 10th round, that's a way I'd like to go. This decision for me is between Christian Watson and Brandon Ayuk. It's tough. I already have Deebo Samuel, though, so that locks in Christian Watson for me. Others to consider are Tyler Lockett. If Lockett makes it back to us here, that's a consideration, and he does. Because, again, I like in PPR settings, if you've watched my videos before, you know that I'm looking to load up on wide receivers in PPR settings. Amon-Ra, target hog. Deebo Samuel, not only a target hog, but he'll get touches in the backfield. Sometimes a touch pass maybe from Brock Purdy that you count as a reception. Christian Watson is a little bit more of a volatile piece, but the upside of him turning into that target hog, let's say that Jordan Love just locks onto him and that's the way it's going to be in Green Bay. That's our wide receiver 3. We're in love with that. We love that. All right. Brandon Ayuk would be a strong consideration here if I didn't already have Deebo, but I don't want to put too many eggs in one basket when it comes to offenses. That's a good offense to do it with, but at the quarterback position, whether it's Brock Purdy or Darnold, and clearly not going to be Trey Lance, which hurts my heart, but whoever's at quarterback there, it's not going to be necessarily an elite option at quarterback. So to say that Purdy's going to be able to sustain 2 wide receivers on every given week, plus what Christian McCaffrey is going to demand, plus what George Kittle is going to demand, we're not going to go to San Francisco wide receivers here. Not really. We're kind of a stay away on Michael Pittman, and that's just a decision that I've made because I don't really trust the passing offense just yet. I think Anthony Richardson could be good for fantasy, but that's mostly because of what he'll do in the running game. I don't trust him as a passer just yet. Don't love the quarterback situation for Marquise Brown. Guys, Tyler Lockett's a player I really like, and this is the 6th round, and I did notice that on Yahoo he's like a 48 overall or something on their X rank. He's down here at 71 on the rank on Sleeper. I'm going to end up taking Tyler Lockett here for sure. Dallas Goedert, slight consideration, but I'm going to feel really good about having Tyler Lockett. He's just been consistent year over year. I can scroll down a little bit, but there's nobody as rock solid for me as Lockett would be in this spot. So I'm going to be really happy to lock him in as my 4th wide receiver, my 2nd flex, PPR. I love having wide receivers that are quality there. This isn't like the wide receiver core that I dreamed of. I don't usually draft a ton of Debo, but you have to kind of adjust to where you're drafting. And that's why you should draft from every different draft position if you're doing mocks. Or if your league, if you can make this happen in your league, have your commissioner tell you all ahead of time where you're drafting from so you can practice from that spot. That's super valuable as well. But if you don't know, it's like an hour before you're going to find out, it does make sense to do some drafts from the early portion. Do some from the middle. Do from some, maybe the turn area of the draft so that you're prepared on draft day. But we like our wide receiver core. Amon-Ra's a target of mine. Lockett's certainly a target of mine at cost. Debo is a little bit volatile, but if he's healthy, I think he's going to smash as your wide receiver too. I mean, a couple years ago, he was basically the wide receiver 1 if Cooper Kupp didn't exist and have that crazy season. So I'm not thinking the decline phase is coming yet for Debo. I like him at the 3rd round pick that we got him at. Christian Watson could end up being an Amon-Ra type. So we really like the core that we're building in this Hero RB build. But let's figure out what to do next because we're in the 7th round. This is when we said we would be allowed to draft running backs again. And it looks like we're going to do that because, and this is something that we learn as we do these. Look at what happened ever since our Tyler Lockett pick. Pacheco, Dalvin Cook, Javonte Williams, James Cook, Montgomery all off the board. James Cook, Javonte Williams, Pacheco, and Montgomery are our kind of 0 RB targets. But by going Hero RB, we made it okay to miss out on some of those guys because we know that Bijan is going to anchor that running back room. So we can live with missing out and knowing that we've still got guys that we like down here. Rachaad White is interesting, but I don't love that offense in Tampa. Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, it doesn't matter who it is. I'm a little bit iffy on that. And there always is the threat that a Dalvin Cook or a Ezekiel Elliott goes there. A.J. Dillon's intriguing. I'm going to take this shot on Antonio Gibson here, and then I'll explain why. We're hoping Zach Charbonnet comes back to us, by the way. Let's see if that happens first. Addison in the late 7th is a great pick. That's a great value. That's a mental note I want to make. Because if I don't go Lockett here, probably, being honest with you, if I hadn't said off the top, I'm not taking a running back till the 7th, I probably in that 6th round, as much as I love Tyler Lockett, I'm picking James Cook or Javonte Williams or Pacheco or David Montgomery. And then coming back, I'm taking a wide receiver in this round like Jordan Addison. Or maybe Tyler Lockett falls all the way here. Or maybe by not picking Lockett, Pickens ends up getting to us in the 7th. Mike Williams could get to us in the 7th. And even now I can check the wide receivers. I like Jahan Dotson. Quentin Johnson I like. So there would have been enough value there in the 7th round. But we're going to go Antonio Gibson because in a Hero RB build or a 0 RB build, he's a safe pick. He's going to be the 3rd down back for the Commanders this year. Brian Robinson is going to take the early downs, but that's not what's valuable to us in PPR. Antonio Gibson, they're talking about lining him up more as a wide receiver, having him finally, he was a college wide receiver with Memphis and hasn't really gotten to show that part of his game as much. Last year, he caught 46 balls, though. Talking Antonio Gibson still. I think he catches 50-plus passes this year. Sam Howell, whoever's their quarterback, it's not probably going to be a guy that can just ignore the running back in the passing game. I really like Antonio Gibson for floor, right? You're not really thinking upside for him, although he's the type of athlete that could give you upside. Gibson is kind of the last guy of this tier for me when you're looking at the Montes, the Cooks, the Javantes. And Javante's going to be a 6th or 5th round by the time the drafts actually happen in September. So we're cool with Gibson there as a floor as our RB2. If he can get us 8 to 10 to 12 points in PPR per game, we think we're robust enough at RB1, at quarterback, and in our wide receiver core to have that be a winning recipe until later on when we end up trading up, because that's something that I'll talk to you guys about a lot during the season. We like Charbonnet. We got to go quick here, though. I'm going to take Gabe Davis. I spent a little bit too much time talking about what I was doing with Gibson. I think Gabe Davis, the hype around him as the wide receiver 2 for the Bills is real, and I want a piece of that Bills offense. And we didn't draft James Cook like we often do, so as a result, we're going to grab Gabe Davis there. And the reason was we thought a guy like Charbonnet could get all the way back to us in the 9th, and he did. So now we feel really good about, we've got a bench bat in Gabe Davis that when I talk about trading up, I'm looking at, all right, I've got 5 wide receivers that I really think are going to have good seasons. As the season goes along, I can package one of them with Antonio Gibson, who's been getting me 10, 11. Maybe he scores a touchdown and gets a 15-point week in the first few weeks of the season. And now other fantasy managers will go, oh, Antonio Gibson's like a 12 to 15-point guy. I want him. And man, Gabe Davis is doing great, or Christian Watson's popping off, or Tyler Lockett's doing what he does every year. Maybe, honestly, Debo is the guy that I'd look to trade. Imagine Gibson and Debo having a great week at the same time. I can turn Gibson and Debo, I bet, into one of these early round running backs, like a Breece Hall. I don't take the risk of Breece Hall if he's not healthy because I didn't draft him, but let's say he starts the season healthy and looks good. There are ways to do that where you trade Debo Samuel and Gibson for Breece Hall. Or maybe it's Breece Hall off of a bad week, but I still am like, oh, he's going to be fine because he showed it earlier and he's healthy. It's just he had a bad week for the Jets. Those trades can happen if you time them right. I know it sounds crazy, but subscribe to this channel. You will see exactly what I'm talking about because I'll show you my process during the season. I do it every single year. As long as I have a roster that's healthy, which I usually do by going 0 or hero RB, because these wide receivers aren't going to get hurt like these running backs that are drafted in the first 2 rounds. It's just the way it works. So subscribe to this channel if you really want to become good at trading in fantasy football. Maybe me putting my process out there will have my league mates go, oh, now I figure out what you do. But I'm trying to build this channel, so that's going to have to be first and foremost. But nevertheless, I had said I wanted Charbonnet to get back to me. We like Cortland Sutton's value in the 9th, but he might get to the 10th. We're going to take Charbonnet because, again, he's the pass-catching running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Even if Kenneth Walker wasn't hurt, I would love Charbonnet. If Kenneth Walker does not start the season or he's banged up during the year, Charbonnet is going to smash. He's going to be a top 4-round pick next year if there is even a portion of this season that Kenneth Walker is out. Pete Carroll wants to run the football, but when they do pass the football and check it down to a running back, Charbonnet is the guy that could absolutely fill that role. So we're going with floor because we think Charbonnet's got one. If he sees even 40% of snaps in that backfield, even 30% of snaps, as long as it's the PPR downs, he's going to score 8 to 10 points a game, even without touchdowns, even without explosive plays. Antonio Gibson, same way. We're picking guys that have a floor, but we could see a world in which they evolve into a ceiling, and then you trade them off of the week when they evolved into their ceiling. You package them with, you've got 5 wide receivers. Like, you're afraid to put Gabe Davis in your starting lineup? I'm not. Not when Stephon Diggs says he's going to be, it's Gabe Davis season. All right, I believe in that. And in a hero RB build, we didn't draft our second one until the 7th, but all we got to do is pair one of these running backs in our lineup with the guy we drafted in round 1, Bijan Robinson. If it's a good matchup for Gibson or Charbonnet, that's the week that those guys are in our lineup. Now let's look at how we build this out even further because Devon A-Chain is up at the top, and he's another guy that fits this build. I don't want to take him in every draft I do because there is risk that he's just nothing in that Miami offense, but they like him. They like him, and he's a bench bat for me. You want rookies on your bench because rookies are undervalued in drafts because people just, they don't want to believe it until they've seen it in fantasy football drafts. So let me find, is there a player that I'm going to take instead of Devon A-Chain? Cortland Sutton would be a reasonable pick here in the 10th round, especially if you buy that Sean Payton's going to improve that offense after Nathaniel Hackett's gone. We like Sky Moore. We're keeping an eye on him. But Sky Moore's not coming to us in the 11th, but we did build a good wide receiver core. We got to go Devon A-Chain. None of those guys that, Cortland Sutton wasn't getting back to us. We don't think Sky Moore's getting back to us. But we're talking about our wide receiver 6 at this point. We might regret a little bit not going tight end because there was an opportunity to do so. Okonkwo, Kincaid, I don't know what Team 1 is doing. Why do they have to draft 2 tight ends in 1 pick? They didn't have to do that to us. Why did I click Gabe Davis? I didn't mean to do that. Taking a look at our roster here on the right side of the screen. We got a couple bench spots left to fill. We love the way our bench is shaking out because these are guys with upside. And even if they don't play, like let's say A-Chain and Charbonnet, they don't play a lot, you can find a manager in your league who will trade for them. You might have to put a package together, but Rookies are okay to stash on your bench too. In these very late rounds, we're looking to pick up guys that we think are going to show early or not at all. Like a Tank Bigsby would be a great example of a good late round pick. Kendre Miller, great example of a late round pick. Where it's like, if this guy is going to be a part of that offense, we're going to probably know it early. Those are what we're looking for. Rashad Bateman. If you're high on Lamar Jackson resurgence, Rashad Bateman's a ridiculous pick in the 11th because I'm not in on Odell. I'm not in on Odell Beckham. I don't think that he's going to be the number one in that offense. So Rashad Bateman, if you think he can be healthy, would be fascinating here. But I am more inclined to join the Chiefs offense if I have a choice to do so. So we're circling the wagons on Sky Moore, but we do want to check real quick. Is that going to screw us at tight end? Because we still need a tight end. Laporta has been one of my late round targets. Dawson Knox, don't necessarily write him off. Kincaid's going to be a dude, but Dawson Knox could very well be somebody that in a prolific passing offense still is relevant. Tyler Higbee I actually like a lot too. Who is on the Rams besides Cooper Kupp? Not many. Not many guys. What's the guy's name? Puka Nacua out of like BYU. He's an interesting rookie late round flyer. But that passing offense is going to be Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. Because Matt Stafford, I don't think, is slinging it around the yard like he used to. And Higbee, before he got hurt last year, he was relevant. Let's draft Sky Moore, though, before we miss our chance to do so. I want to see where Bateman goes. He goes right there at 11-10. That's crazy. That's good value. I'm not a Bateman lover, but that's value on him. Tyler Higbee goes, but the tight end we wanted to get back to us is Laporta anyway. So we're going to lock that in here. And then with the last pick, we're just going to look to take somebody that we think, okay, is this player going to show out in week one? And if they don't, we're not worried about having to stash them on our bench. We can turn that bench over a little bit. That's what we're looking for. CJ Stroud would be interesting in that regard, right? If he pops off, let's say he suddenly adds a bunch of rushing to his game week one, and managers are going, oh my gosh, he's Justin Fields. Why didn't we draft him? I could trade him. Roshan Johnson, what if he has a role? It's not Deontay Foreman. It's not Khalil Herbert in Chicago. It's the rookie Roshan Johnson. Would be very interesting as a pick. He may be who I take for that very reason. Tank Bigsby would have been another guy, but he's gone. We have 6 wide receivers. We don't need another one. Darnell Mooney, though, that's interesting. That would be a stack, too, at Justin Fields. But here's why I'm not going to take Darnell Mooney. It doesn't fit my process. My process of, let's say he goes 4 catches on 5 targets for 51 yards in the first week. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good, but I'm not putting him in my lineup, and I also don't think I can trade him. So we're not going to bog our bench down with a guy that we're just stashing for no real reason. Have a purpose for your bench. Maybe there's another rookie tight end we want to take a shot on because we like Laporta, but what if he's not the guy? Maybe Michael Mayer would be. We find out after week 1. If we do, keep him. If we don't, trash him. It's fine. Chase Brown, what if he's the RB2 for Cincinnati? Right now, it hasn't been the case. I forget the guy's name. Trevion Williams, whatever his name, has been running as the number 2. But maybe there's a world in which we go that direction. Jalen Hyatt, Justin Ross would be interesting if I didn't already have Sky Moore, but I don't need 2 Chiefs. I'm making my bet on Sky Moore with the way I've drafted here. I'm talking myself into Roshan Johnson. We've got 18 seconds left. It's fine to use the full clock. There's nobody else that is really, and again, this is not super prepared because I could scroll down ADP and find somebody, but we're going to go Roshan Johnson. We're going to take a shot on that because we're very, very comfortable dropping Roshan Johnson if he's not the guy. He could be inactive week 1, or he could have a great preseason and the Bears could say, yeah, I know we signed Deontay Foreman and we've got Khalil Herbert that we're high on, but this Roshan Johnson kid was the backup for Bijan Robinson actually at Texas. So we bookended our draft with Texas running backs. We got that whole backfield from the Longhorns last year. But that's an easy guy to drop if he's not involved, right? You want to have a guy like that at the end of your bench where you can say, okay, if it's not him, I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, maybe he emerges in week 12, but I'm not going to stash Roshan Johnson on my bench all year. That's how you should be handling your benches if you want to shoot for upside. And let's say Roshan Johnson has a week and people go, oh my, what if he's the guy in Chicago? Okay, I trade Roshan Johnson and Gabe Davis off a 2-touchdown game. And what do I get? I probably get a player that was drafted in the first 4 rounds. I can do that after week 1. I can do that for Calvin Ridley, who had a bad first week, or Keenan Allen, who had a bad first week. These are the kinds of trades you can make. if you get lucky, because you got to stay healthy or it doesn't work, but you can also bake in the possibility of good luck with the way you draft. So here's what we go. Justin Fields at quarterback, I feel good about. Look, Mahomes is QB1. I think Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts are certainly above the others. That's a tier. After Jalen Hurts is a tier break. But Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields with their rushing capability can have a Hurts-like season. Lamar has done it before. He's a former MVP. Justin Fields could do it this year. So I like Fields over Burrow just because, well, even without the injury. The Burrow injury is scary, especially if you're drafting Jamar Chase early, which I do a lot. But I like Fields over Burrow just because of the rushing potential. If I'm going to bother drafting a quarterback early and not just taking Jared Goff in the 11th like he went here, if I'm doing that, I'm getting a guy with upside. And it's not to say that Burrow doesn't have upside. But Fields could have a bad passing day and still have a great fantasy day. That's why I love running quarterbacks. Bijan Robinson was our hero. Having Chubb as our hero is an option. I don't feel comfortable with Henry, Jacobs, Taylor, or Breece Hall. Maybe Pollard, if you're getting him at the late second, early third, could be your hero in a hero RB build. Like, it would have been kind of fun to, if you're at the 2 spot here, let's say you go Jamar Chase at the 2, or Travis Kelce at the 2, or Cooper Kupp. And then you can go Pollard here, and then you wrap around with Mark Andrews. That'd be attractive, for sure. But as it is, we went Bijan Robinson because the upside is tantalizing. How fun would it be to get to enjoy a breakout season of a guy like Bijan Robinson for fantasy? That's something you'll never forget. Kareem Hunt's rookie year, I took a shot on him in the 3rd round. My first year in a big money league. Reports from Chiefs camp were that he was going to be involved. And I'm like, if I don't take, it was a 14-team league too. I'm like, if I don't take Kareem Hunt right here in the 3rd, I'm not getting him. So throw ADP in the trash. If you've got a guy that you want, get him. Kareem Hunt, of course, had that humongous week 1 for the Chiefs in his rookie year. And that year, I think I went AB, Todd Gurley. Got a discount on Todd Gurley because he was off kind of a so-so year for the St. Louis Rams. AB, Todd Gurley, Kareem Hunt, fantasy championship. Juju off the waiver wire that year too. Fantasy championship. So ADP, it's there as a guide. Pick your guys. Do not leave the draft going, man, why did I pick this guy? Because I was hoping so-and-so would get back to me, and I don't even really like this guy that I picked. Don't put yourself in that spot. Pick guys you like. Antonio Gibson's maybe the one example where I did that in this draft. It's not that I don't like him. It's more based on process of PPR floor. We're taking our shot on him. His ceiling is not as high to me as like an A-Chain or a Charbonnet, so that's where ADP is coming to line. But because I got Charbonnet and A-Chain, I'm not really regretting going Gibson. Like the running backs that went between my 2 RB picks here at round 7 and 9, A.J. Dillon, which I think his upside is capped in a lesser offense. Love the player, love the talent. Brian Robinson, not good for PPR, so don't care about that. No running backs going off the board. P. Ryan, look, I'm in on Javonte Williams. I think P. Ryan's a fine pick, but I'm not going to be picking him. And then Jamal Williams, who is a run first, not a pass catcher. So there's not a single running back that went between the 7.8 Gibson pick. I get it, Rashad White may be the one, but again, I prefer Gibson for floor and maybe even for upside because it's PPR. But between Gibson and Charbonnet, there's really nobody that went that I was like, oh no, I missed out. So I love the way that broke down. I got a wide receiver that I really like. I could have gone Zay Flowers at this 8th-round pick. I went Gabe Davis. Dealer's choice. If I had taken Lamar here instead of Fields, which wasn't obviously an option, but let's say it was, then I probably do. I stack that with Zay Flowers. I think he might end up as the wide receiver 1 by the time it's all said and done this year in Baltimore. But we like the way that's set up because we got our potential hero in Bijan. We got a guy we can plug in Antonio Gibson. And then look at our bench of running backs. We got Charbonnet, A-Chain. Yeah, not really Roschon Johnson. We're a little bit light at running back. Like we've only got 4, and 2 of them are rookies that may not pan. Another one's a rookie that's probably going to pan out. So we're a little bit light. I wish we would have had maybe like a Khalil Herbert type somewhere in here. But I'd have to look through the individual rounds to be like, when did I miss? Because again, here's Herbert, but I would rather have Charbonnet because I think he's got more upside. A-Chain over Algier, who's going to be the second running back on his team, over Harris. I mean, yeah, Damian Harris is on Buffalo, but I'm taking James Cook's side of that ledger. Harris is going to probably be early down guy, not a pass catcher. James Cook can do a little bit of everything. I'm not afraid of taking a non-starting running back. Because if he's the 3rd down back in the pass catcher and maybe he's got goal line tendencies as well, or could score touchdowns through the air, I prefer that because you get a discount because people say, he's not the starter. Who cares? Fantasy points is what matters, not the depth chart. Know how guys are going to be used, and you can take that and use it to your advantage. Sam Laporta is just an upside shot. I'm just taking him everywhere I can. What's going to happen, though, is Laporta's going to push up to the 11th or 10th round, and I'm going to have to decide, do I want to grab the upside RB, or do I need to fill my lineup with Laporta because people are starting to figure out that he's a guy? That's going to be tough in September. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Wide receiver-wise, love Amon-Ra. He's gonna smash if he's healthy. Debo, little scared about that, but I think at the value we got him, it's really good. We want Devontae Smith or T. Higgins or Olave to get to this spot. It's easier when you're drafting 5 through 7. 8 is a tough spot. But you know what? If you're scared of a certain spot in the draft, mock there 100 times because you'll find strategies that you like. It's just the only way to be prepared. But we like Debo. We still think he's on a great offense and could be one of their top weapons. Christian Watson, don't love the quarterback, but love the talent and the potential. He could absolutely pop off if Jordan Love takes a step forward. He'll be a guy that you're drafting up in the Debo Metcalf area next year, if that happens. Tyler Lockett, he's done it for a million years. He'll do it for a couple more. But if he doesn't, Gabe Davis is a shot. Sky Moore could be. I mean, he's playing in 2 wide receiver sets for the Chiefs for Patrick Mahomes. That's who's quarterbacking that team. You want guys who are starting wide receivers for Patrick Mahomes. Love this draft. Feel really good about the way it played out with Hero RB build. Even though that's a build that makes me a little uncomfortable sometimes because I force myself to take a running back when I'm normally salivating over a Tyreek Hill or a CeeDee Lamb or a Garrett Wilson or a Cooper Kupp if I'm a little bit higher in the round, or one of these dudes like JJ, Jamar Chase. It's good to practice these types of things and feel like, okay, if this draft sets up in a certain way, I can pivot to it immediately. I'm not going to go into a real draft going, here's my Hero RB draft. Here's my 0 RB. Here's my robust RB. Here's my early round tight end. You just practice every different type so that when you're in a spot, you recognize like, oh, this is the way the draft is falling in my direction. This is the type of draft I need to do today. If you practice it enough, it's going to work out. That's going to do it, though, for this edition of the show. Appreciate you guys, as always, for watching these mock drafts. And again, once fantasy season kicks up, we're going to do more fantasy content on the channel. So you got to hit that subscribe button if you like fantasy content, draft strategies. And if you like trade strategies, I'm telling you, this is going to be the channel to follow because a lot of what I'm going to do, I'm in like a dozen leagues. I'm going to talk to you guys about trades. I'm going to take your comments and be like, oh, this is a great question. I'm going to do a video on this guy's question. You can ask a question and you get a 10-minute video about what I think of your specific trade situation. I may ask for more info. I may be like, all right, send me a DM. I need to see these teams because the context of your league, super important in trades as well. But let me know what you guys think of these videos. Let me know what you want to see. If you're in a 14-team league, be like, dude, I'm drafting from the 1.7 in a 14-teamer. Can you do a mock draft with me for that? First of all, I'll do a video of it, and I'll invite you to mock draft with me. You can draft from your 7 spot. I'll draft from somewhere else, and we'll go through it that way. Eventually, with these mock drafts, I want to have it filled. I don't want it to be against computers, but right now, I'm just building this channel, so be part of it. Appreciate you guys, as always, for joining me. We'll talk to you next time on this channel. Stay tuned. More fantasy football content to come. Peace.